Good evening. I'd like to call the Village Board meeting for the Village of Cary for May 7th, 2024 to order with roll call, please.
Weinhammer.
Here.
Walrath.
Here.
McAlpine.
Here.
Collier.
Here.
Stefani.
Here.
Thank you. Would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Hey, Brian, could you check the, thank you. Thank you. Moving to the open forum where the public is invited to make an issue-oriented comment on any matter of public concern not otherwise on the agenda. Checking right now. Quite a few. Dawn Pensack? Let me, is everybody on this list here to speak on one particular item on the agenda? Like Maplewood?
Probably.
All right, I'm going to ask you to hold until we get to that item on the agenda, okay?
Do you want me to hold too?
Please.
Okay.
Thank you. That was quick. Moving forward to Mayor's report, I got a few things. I enlisted some of my friends here on the dais to help me out. But first and foremost, we have a 20-year recognition. If Scott Nadenoff would join me up here, our deputy, he'd take his coat off and stay a while. Cold. But I have to tell you, it's been an honor and privilege serving with you for at least 14 of the 20 years, maybe 16 of the 20 years.
Yeah, we know you.
In 2009, so we've been around the block a few times. Things have changed a little bit. Things are, I think that we're on the rise up. What'd you say? He was integral in helping us build this unbelievable facility that we're in right now. He and our esteemed chief of police. This guy's got a wealth of information about the Village of Cary. He's super respected in the policing community as well as within our community. So it is always a pleasure coming in and chatting with you. We gave a tour to a high school student that was interested in government this past week, and he helped us lead the tour of the police department. And he always adds that level of excitement about what he does and gets the enthusiasm going. So I think it's great that you're at your 20-year anniversary. You don't look a day over. Yeah. Can you believe that? Well, I'm going to turn it over to your boss.
So, Deputy Chief Nadenoff attended the law enforcement basic training at the Police Training Institute at the University of Illinois Champaign-Urbana. He served as a patrol officer. He was an investigator. He was a patrol sergeant within the department, and then he was a deputy chief in field operations, which means that he was responsible for the operations for us responding to calls for service and traffic and things of that nature. And now his current role, which he loves, by the way, is Deputy Chief Support Services, which encompasses the investigation sections of the department and our records section, as well as everything else in the building. He attended the School of Police Staff and Command, Northwestern University Center for Public Safety, of which he was the president of his class. He attended the Police Executive Role in 21st Century. It's a leadership development course. He's achieved his undergraduate degree from Columbia College, and he has a MBA from Lewis University, as well as a master's in organizational leadership. He also presents information in regards to arrest, search, and seizure for the Northeastern Multi-Regional Training, our mobile training unit, number 3. It's a 3-day course, and he's very well versed in case law. But I think that's all I have to say about that.
Oh, that's it?
Well, thank you very much. Congratulations. Look forward to the next 20. Oh. Let's start with 5 or 10. Let's start with 5 or 10. I'll We have a few proclamations. One for National Bike Month. Trustee Walrath?
Thank you. Whereas the bicycle is an economical, healthy, convenient, and environmentally sound form of transportation and an excellent tool for recreation and enjoyment of the Village of Cary's scenic beauty, and whereas McHenry County's road and trail system attracts bicyclists each year, providing economic health, transportation, tourism, and scenic benefits, and whereas creating a bicycling-friendly community has been shown to improve citizens' health, well-being, and quality of life, growing the economy, attracting tourism dollars, improving traffic safety, supporting student learning outcomes, and reducing pollution, congestion, and wear and tear on our streets and roads. And whereas the League of American Bicyclists, schools, parks, and recreation departments will be promoting bicycling during the month of May 2024, now therefore, Mark Kounick, Mayor of the Village of Cary, do hereby proclaim May 2024 as Bike Month in the Village of Cary, and we urge all residents to join in this special observance.
Thank you, Trustee Walrath. Trustee McAlpine, Police Week.
Whereas the Congress and President of the United States have designated May 15th as Peace Officers Memorial Day, and the week in which May 15th falls is National Police Week, and whereas the members of the Village of Cary Police Department play an essential role in safeguarding the daily lives of Cary residents, and whereas it is important that all residents of Cary know and understand the duties, responsibilities, hazards, and sacrifices of their police department, and that members of our department recognize their duty to serve the people by safeguarding life and property, by protecting them against violence, disorder, and deception, and whereas the men and women of the Village of Cary Police Department continually provide a vital public service. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that Mark Kounick, the Mayor of the Village of Cary, calls upon all residents of Cary to observe the week of May 12th through the 18th, 2024, as Village of Cary Police Department Week, with appropriate observances in which all our residents may join in commemorating law enforcement officers, past and present, who, by their faithful and loyal devotion to the responsibilities, have rendered a dedicated service to Cary. I further call upon all residents of Cary to observe Wednesday, May 15th, 2024, as Peace Officers Memorial Day in honor of those law enforcement officers across our land who, through their courageous deeds, may have made the ultimate sacrifice in service to their community. Dated the 7th day of May, 2024.
Thank you, Trustee McAlpine. Trustee Weinhammer.
National Public Works Week, Connecting the World Through Public Works, May 19th through the 25th, 2024. Whereas public works services provided in our community are an integral part of Cary residents' everyday lives. And whereas the support of an understanding and informed citizenry is vital to the efficient operation of public works services and programs such as water, sewers, streets, and highways and public buildings. And whereas the health, safety, and comfort of the Cary community greatly depends on these facilities and services. And whereas the quality and effectiveness of these facilities, as well as their planning, design, and construction, is vitally dependent upon the effort and skill of public works staff. Now therefore be it proclaimed that Mark Kounick, Mayor of the Village of Cary, do hereby proclaim the week of May 19th through the 25th, 2024, as National Public Works Week in the Village of Cary. And he calls upon all citizens and civic organizations to acquaint themselves with the issues involved in providing our public works and to recognize the contributions that public works staff make every day to our health, safety, comfort, and quality of life. Dated the 7th day of May, 2024.
Thank you, Trustee Weinhammer. And thank you to our Chief of Police and our Director of Public Works for everything that you do to keep us safe and clean. All right, thank you. I will entertain a motion to approve consent agenda items A through R as shown on the village's website and is displayed on the video monitor during the village board meeting.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Walrath,
Yes.
Stefani,
Yes.
Weinhammer,
Yes.
McAlpine,
Yes.
Collier,
Yes.
Thank you. Just as a procedural matter, we have in the middle of our items for separate action, a break with an executive session. That executive session is now moved to the end of the meeting, so we will we will be consistent with the rest of the meeting. I will entertain a motion to approve a resolution entering into an incentive agreement with the Peaceful Project, utilizing the Village of Cary's facade improvement and interior build-out grant program for a property located at 27 Jandis Road, Suite A.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Brian?
Thank you, Mayor, Village Board. The request this evening is the first facade grant application that we've had since the new project or new program was established following the creation of the TIF district. The Peaceful Project is a proposed retailer that'll be located in downtown Cary on the space that was formerly occupied by the Kitchens by Julie. They're proposing to do an exterior renovation of this space, retrofitting of the interior of the space, new lighting, some new exterior signage, and signage that would facing towards the street as well. The property is located within the B1 Central Business District and within TIF 3, so it is eligible for the program. Total project costs are anticipated to be in the mid $50,000 range, and the requesting a grant of the maximum of $10,000 for this project. That $10,000 grant would be approximately 18% of the total project costs. The retailer specializes in sales of board games, puzzles, and also Legos as well for that establishment. They will also have children books available for sale as well. I believe there are representatives from the business here as well that could answer additional questions, but staff is supportive of the request for the facade grant program in this location.
Do the business owners want to address the board?
Good evening, Gary Cass, property owner.
Jess Stetson, she/her, owner of the Peaceful Project.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions for the business owners? Do you want to give us a little bit of an overview of what you expect to have in your establishment?
Yeah, so my husband and I moved to Cary a couple of years ago to be closer to family, and something that's always been really important to us is actually building community and building that space where people can come and kind of figure out who they are and how they want to be creative and curious. And so the goal of the Peaceful Project is to create what I call like a non-sweaty, gross gaming establishment where people can bring their families and their kids, and we can teach them how to play Dungeons and Dragons or Pokemon or just experience a puzzle, something that allows them to like mentally check out a little bit as busy parents or busy kid adjacent folks, and then also bring the community together in a space that is welcoming and open.
Yeah. Sounds good. Any questions, comments?
I when I was reading about this and you were talking about Legos, I was just curious for people who have younger kids if you're going to have like a Lego drop-in time,
Yeah,
you
so
know, for kids and
we're
stuff
gonna do
like
a
that.
couple of things that I think are really cool. So first, we do have an incubator space up at the McHenry Riverwalk shops right now, and so you can kind of see what we're aiming toward with the Jandis Road space. There's going to be a couple of things. There'll be a sensory room in the back. I have a neurodivergent child myself, and so I wanted to create that safe space where people could come and bring their kids and not be worried that they're going to like run out of the building and those types of things. And so puzzles, games, Legos will all be back there and will be a part of that experience as well. We'll also have build tables. So the build tables will be places where people can, yes, come and grab a big bulk, a lot of Legos to build whatever they want, but we'll have, you know, like puzzle leagues and Lego leagues and all sorts of things. We want people to be in the space in downtown Cary and recognizing not only what creativity can do for them, but what downtown Cary can do for them as well.
Are you thinking about doing like parents' night out where parents could go ahead and drop their children off and head to the tracks or Cucina Rustica or? There you go.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Very nice.
Just curious, how did you hear about the grant process and go through all that? Was it from Brian? Okay. Nope, just curious. Thank you.
No, he got me. Thanks, Brian.
Yep.
Just real quick, I think it's a great idea. I love that you're incorporating a lot of that. From a retail standpoint, so you're going to be selling some of the games and stuff that they can buy also, but a lot of it's going to be just time that people can get together, family time, or whether it's, as we said, different clubs and activities they can do with the kids.
Yep, and it's going to be several lines of business. It'll be new and used
Okay.
for Lego puzzles and board games. It will also be rentals, so it'll be rentals in the store or take-home rentals. If you've got a sick kid on the couch, or you just, like I said, have a night off and adults can build Legos too. I'm gonna get you all there. So yeah, there's gonna be a lot of ways where we can get people together and get people thinking a little bit differently.
Well, I'm very excited to welcome you here.
That was my question. Can adults come by without the kids?
You can, yeah, I'm an adult who will come in without a kid. That's fine, yeah.
All right, thank you. This is one of the reasons why, in the future, some of these programs will just go to our regular consent agenda because the board has already given authorization to spend up to $10,000 for a viable business like yours, and leaving it up to our staff. They know what we want. We want to make sure that we're being expedient with things to make it more business friendly so that you're able to acquire the funding a little bit quicker rather than waiting for our cycle. So for the first few grants, we're going to do them publicly just so everybody knows what goes on, how our thought process is, and what we're doing. And then eventually we'll kind of wean ourselves off of it, and then we'll go towards just a staff decision. So thank you very much. Any other questions or comments? Roll call, please.
McAlpine,
Yes.
Stefani,
Yes.
Walrath,
Yes.
Collier,
Yes.
Weinhammer,
Yes.
And for the record, I've talked to Trustee Dudek. He's away on business, but I would let him know that he supports this as well. So thank you, welcome, good luck. The next is I will entertain a motion to approve a waiver of certain application requirements for planned development application related to the development on the property located at the northwest corner of Industrial Drive and Reuben Lane.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Brian?
Thank you, Mayor. The request this evening is related to the property across the street from Municipal Center here. As the property, again, is under contract for potential development, which is planning to go through the zoning process potentially this summer. As the board is aware, but also for the public's knowledge, the planning and development process within the village does allow for developers to submit requests for waivers of the application requirements related to their zoning petition. And so the decision tonight is not a decision regarding the development as proposed. Is a decision regarding certain application elements that the developer is wishing to not submit as part of their zoning application. But that process will still have to go through a zoning hearing and back to the village board for official determination on the project. The developer is requesting 6 waivers related to the application, which are similar to waivers that the board has granted for the site in the past. Specifically, is seeking approval not to submit a traffic study related to the site, market study, village service demand analysis, a off-site utility improvement, a drainage plan, and the open house requirement due to no residences within a certain distance of the subject property. Again, these waivers have been granted for the last 2 projects that were proposed for the site, which did not actually go through the zoning process for various reasons. But staff is supportive of the requests in this case due to the nature of the site and the surrounding development that has occurred in the area. The developers here can provide additional information regarding the project as proposed as well, and I'll invite them forward from that standpoint if there are any questions for staff or developer as well.
Mr. Dooley, would you like to come up, please?
Good evening.
Thank you. Anybody have any direct questions right away? Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. You've obviously seen me up here a few times in the past. As Brian kind of went through the site, we are currently the contract purchaser for the parcel. As you could probably tell every time you look outside of the door here, it's a very difficult site to develop because from the Goddard School site down to Reuben, there's a total of 20 feet of fall. So with 20 feet of fall, it makes it very difficult for a lot of uses. Even, I went through probably 15 different site plans trying to figure out a way that we could fit some townhomes on there. The problem with trying to put a 4-unit townhome building across property that's sloping like this, it becomes very difficult where you have to split the building in half and you got driveways that are one's here, one's at this level. So what we chose to do on the planning stage here is more duplex-related units than an actual townhome. As well as we'll have basements that will be in some of the units. Some of them will be slab on grade, some will be basements. We're able to take up more grade in a situation like that. So like under buildings 12 and 13, those will be walkout basements looking out over the park site that we have there. We haven't planned the park site yet. You know, obviously the thoughts are a walking trail and benches out there, potentially a small little dog run area, something of that nature. We'll start meeting with landscape architects to start the work on that. We positioned units 1 through 6 to face towards 3 Oaks Road. Obviously, we felt that that was the best way for the property to be sited. So from people from 3 Oaks Road are looking at the front of the buildings, not looking at the rears. And then at some point, somebody wanted to fence, the subdivision wanted to fence it. So we felt it looks a lot better that way. Second, with respect to when that property to the north does develop, most of the time people live in the back parts of their houses. So this way, those units are already in the back, living in the back spot of their house, overlooking the big part of the subdivision, not facing, again, whatever that use of that property ends up being. There was an elevation that was just put up there that, you know, it's something one of our architects had sketched up based on the duplexes that we have. It's not exact, obviously, at this point in time. We're still developing the floor plans. But what the plan is on the end units, and the nice thing too also, if you look at the counts of the units, there's a total of 38 units. There's only 8 middle units. There's 30 end units. So that's a real positive from the standpoint of marketability. You know, I've been building a long time, and banks used to finance, giving you, okay, you can, once you get 2 buildings or 2 units in a building sold, then we'll finance, you know, we'll finance the development of that building. Well, of course, you always sell the end units, and then you're left with the middle units. And under this scenario, only having 8 middle units is great from a marketing standpoint. We're also, the end units will be a primary bedroom on the first level. That way, as we've built other ranch homes in the village here, you know, we've been approached by a lot of people that wanted to be at a price point of $350, $375. You know, it's impossible to be single-family ranch homes at that price point with today's construction costs. So this way, this will give a great opportunity for the local residents to be able to continue to stay in the village. It will be a maintenance-free community. We'll get into more details as we go through it. The roads will be private. We'll request the underground public utilities to be owned by the village, but the roads will all be maintained by the homeowner association as well as the park site. Let's see. You know, as Brian, I think, indicated, we just named it Ridgefield Park. As trying to, and the inner street name right now is Ridgefield Lane. We didn't want to have an address of Industrial Drive for somebody that lived in a residential unit, so we're trying to deviate from that. Obviously, we've showed buffering on that site plan. We've showed buffering of landscaping up along the Goddard School site. Obviously, are a lot of parkway trees that are already planted. We're obviously going to try to maintain, obviously, because there's a lot of large ones. We're going to maintain as many of those as possible, and I'm sure we'll have some tree replacement policy that the village will request that we enforce as well. That's what I got on the site. Any other questions I could answer?
Just one thing. Could you state your name and address for the record?
What was that? Oh, yeah.
Your name is just for record.
J. Dula, Ridgefield Homes, 903 Lakewood Drive in Barrington.
Thank you. Trustee McAlpine, you had a question?
I just have a couple things. And I know you're still at the initial stages, but do you have any idea of, number one, what the price point, a rough idea on price point, and also what an HOA fee would be? Again, I don't know if you have all these.
It's kind of hard to know the
I know.
price point yet because obviously a lot of the costs depend on the engineering and what your final development costs are and all those things related to the, I would like, to be in that 350 to 370 range. That's kind of a sweet spot in the multifamily world. And again, we'll have some slab on grade that will be at that price point, and then we'll have some of these basements that are helping take up the grade. And obviously, you put a basement in, it adds $20,000 in cost today.
From an HOA standpoint, I mean, you're not looking to putting a clubhouse or anything like that, so I'm assuming your HOA is not going to be exorbitant either.
No, I mean, it would be the typical, the one nice thing is that the detention basin's already provided across the street here. So we don't have to deal with any of the mowing. Brian said he might make me go out there and mow it or something. I'm not sure.
Attaboy, Brian.
But we don't have any, we don't have that responsibility. We do have obviously some landscaping, cutting of the park. Since the roads will be private, we'll have our own snow removal. And because it's maintenance-free, we'll be doing driveways as well as the yards of the individual individual lots. Just throwing a number off the top of my head, in past deals that I've done, it's usually, the low 200s, 210 to 230, somewhere in that range, 240, something like that.
Okay. And then lastly, do you have any idea footprint-wise, like what you're thinking square footage for these units, what you think they're going to come in at?
Yeah, I've started developing the floor plans already, and we're on the end units. And I am going to develop on the end unit, besides the first floor master, first floor primary, can't use that word anymore, but a first floor primary bedroom, I will develop a master up plan as well, for just in case you don't have as big of a market as I may think that we have from the older buyer that's looking for, that no stairs. So that typical unit would be, the primary bedroom, first floor, second floor would be a loft and an additional bedroom, and then that loft could be converted to a third bedroom. So that's what that first floor primary would be. We would do a second floor master, similar to that, the same size of that plan on the first floor, where we would, and that other square foot came in about 1,760 square feet, and the master primary on the second floor would be, I think it's just shy of 1,900 square feet. You're asking a lot of tough questions.
People are asking. They're asking.
We want to be able to let people know if it's, people ask us those questions, we want to have an idea of what you're thinking. So I appreciate it. I'm not trying to make it difficult.
I'll ask the hard question then.
Okay.
What's your time frame and when are you looking to start?
Well, it depends on how fast this process would go. We're having some soil borings done soon, just to test the soils. We believe that soils, they're all the original soils, so because when the site was developed, the roads were just cut. So based on an old soil boring that we found, it looked like, it's a lot of the similar type soils that we find in this area, which means that there's not a lot of organics and stuff like that would give us a little heartburn. So once we finish that, we can, depending how fast we can get through this process, I'd like to be moving dirt by the fall, put underground in during the fall and the winter, pave in the spring, and start building. I can build I can put basements in during the winter, but you can't put slab foundations in during the winter. You gotta wait till till it thaws. This year, obviously, it thawed a lot quicker than it has in the past.
Any other questions?
Private versus public for a road. What was your deciding factor on that?
What was that?
Private road versus this is not right.
Well, the village has some requirements on right-of-way width and back-to-back of pavement. And for us to do a 60-foot right-of-way through here would eat up so much land that we'd lose a lot of units. And right now, we're showing a 27-foot back-to-back on the plan. I think the village is maybe 33. So it's just between the right-of-way donation that you have to do with the roads as well as the, the curb back-to-back on the street. So that's why most townhome communities are like that.
Okay, thanks.
Just a note for the public here and whoever's watching out there. Jay Dula is responsible for completing Walnut Ridge next to the high school. He did the build-out at the 5 ranch homes that are at the Cimarron, the beginning of Cimarron, and he's got the 10 row homes under construction right now on Route 14 and 2nd Street next to Cary Bank and Trust. He's also got a infill lot over in Fox Trails he's working on right now as well. So he's a good, how should I say this? Yeah, he's got a great record with the village. He's very easy to work with. He's very respectful for what the village is looking for. And he's a very good representation of the product that we want and that our community is asking for, which specifically we get asked about a site plan like this all the time. Duplexes, townhouses that are in that mid 300 range. A lot of people want to stay here in Cary, but they don't. They're aging in places, they say, in the wrong place, and they need something that they want to step down into. And so, the more opportunities that we could offer our residents, so they can stay put, the better. And I hope the process goes well for you. And I think that the board is fairly supportive of this. So.
Thank you.
Anybody else have any comments, questions? Roll call, please.
Stefani,
Yes.
Walrath,
Yes.
Collier,
Yes.
Weinhammer,
Yes.
McAlpine,
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good luck, Mr. Dula. One other item we have today is a discussion regarding proposed changes to the Harper Point PUD, which is our planned unit development. Brian?
Sure. Thank you, Mayor. Excuse me. This item, just for discussion this evening, is related to the Harper Point planned unit development, which is on the southern portion of the village. This project, as the board is aware, has a bit of a history to it as far as its development approvals. In 2015, it originally received approval from the board for what is kind of de facto first phase of the project. That was 8 duplex units that were constructed along Haber Road and Harper Avenue. And then in 2019, the developer came to the village to modify the plan to expand the project, as they had acquired the former Haber Oaks School property, the high school property that was located there, and added that site to their development plan. So in 2019, the village board approved a plan for an amended PUD that converted that former school building and office building to 24 senior apartments, added a 2nd story to that building, and it had an age restriction for 55 and older for that facility. And then as well, with that project, approved an additional 14 duplex units that would be added to the site in addition to the 8 that were originally approved, to bring the total to 22 homes on the property. At the time of that amended plan approval, one of the duplex buildings had been constructed in that first phase, and subsequently the remaining 3 buildings have since been built and the apartment building constructed as well. In 2022, the final plat of subdivision was recorded for the property, and then in 2023, last year, the former developer for the site that had done the construction to date submitted a request for an extension of the zoning entitlements for the property that extended the construction for the facility through the end of next year, through December 25th, 2025. Following that approval, the Elm Tree Properties did sell the property. What's called, de facto called Phase 2 of the development, which includes the apartment building and the remaining duplex units to be constructed, to the fourth group, who is here this evening to discuss potential modifications to the approved PUD plan. For modifications to a PUD, there are certain items that staff can approve administratively, which essentially don't increase density or reduce lot coverage on a property. So if a structure is relocated elsewhere on a property that overall fits the overall design of what was originally approved, as something that staff can approve administratively for a change. In this case, the developer is looking to make some more significant changes to the plan based off the market conditions that they've experienced since acquiring the building over half a year ago, with leasing it and looking to make some modifications as far as how this portion of the site interacts with the 4 duplex buildings that are located to the north of the property as well. And with those proposed changes, they do constitute what is determined within the code as a major change to the PUD, as it will possibly modify the lot coverage. It will also add a additional unit on the property, some additional structures. So it's not something that staff can approve administratively. It would have to go back through the zoning process for a public hearing and village board eventual approval. And the reason for the discussion this evening is before the petitioner submits a petition for those changes, they want an opportunity to propose them or discuss them before the board preliminarily to see if it is something that there would be general support of from the board to go back through the process. So they don't have to spend time and money to modify the plan if it's something that would not be supported by the community. So the petitioners are here this evening to provide some additional information as far as the proposed project, the modifications they're looking to make, and they'll be happy to answer any questions, as I will as well for the process if the board has questions for staff.
Great.
Yep.
Come on up. Please state your name and record, your criminal record. Please state your name and address for the record.
Scott Seeger, 106 North Catherine Avenue, LaGrange, Illinois.
Thank you. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your vision?
Sure, yeah. So what we were planning to do is make some minor changes to the 6 duplexes that are on the north end of the property. So it's sort of where you see the red arrows up there. We wanted to make the footprint of those buildings smaller to make them into like 8 townhomes, and then make the driveway, instead of being a one-way driveway that went through to the shared driveway with the duplexes to the north, it would be a 2-way driveway, so people would be able to come in and go out. In doing that, we create additional parking, and we want to eliminate the need for the senior 55 plus for the apartment building, because we just haven't had demand for the 2-bedroom units. We've been marketing, well, the previous owner marketed starting in September. It's now May. We've rented one of 8 2-bedroom units. So we think that, opening it up to, all ages, the 2 bedrooms will rent better. We've definitely analyzed the costs, so we're definitely correct in, market, and we've actually probably a little bit below. It's just there's not a lot of demand. I was there this afternoon. I talked to one of the residents, and he's like, "Yeah, those 2 bedrooms are great, but the $1,000 a month more is just, way more than most people are willing to spend." And in the 55 plus category, we've seen that most of those people are just single. We have a few couples, but for all the other units that we've rented so far, it's just one individual. So those are the changes that we're requesting. We feel like it's a benefit to the units to the north, because they won't have as much traffic on that shared road, and it's really more of a driveway than a road. So there's really other than the changes from 6 duplexes to 8 townhomes, that's really the change there and adding a little bit of additional parking. Any questions?
You're going to be completing the garages as well, right?
Right, yeah. So currently, we're in the process of doing the engineering for the 8 duplexes to the south, on the south end of the lot. So we plan to build those this summer. Well, one other minor thing too is there's actually a small encroachment by the very southeast corner of that one unit. So we're requesting a variance for that unit to kind of.
Could I get you to pause for 1 second?
Sure.
We're having a little bit of technical difficulty. Can you look at his microphone, please?
Sorry, maybe I need to get closer. Try that one. All right, I'll try to get closer. Is that better?
We're getting, because we have our own YouTube channel, and we have somebody that monitors the whole broadcast, and he's saying you're not getting picked up. So we have to remind everybody on here that we have to press our speakers to speak. So it's nothing against you.
Yeah, sorry about that. So with the proposed plan, the requirement for the non-senior 55 plus is 2.25 parking spaces. So we would be at 2.16 parking spaces, so a little bit under code. Otherwise, everything would meet code as far as drainage and surface areas and so on. Are there any questions I can answer?
Trustee Weinhammer?
So I just have a question for Director Simmons. So when you were speaking, you said that this is a major change to the PUD.
Correct. This, with language within the code, there's 2 changes. There's the minor change that staff can approve, which is a slight alteration to shift the building 10 feet or whatever to the other side so that it doesn't change the lot coverage of a property. But a modification such as this, where you're adding another dwelling unit to the property, you're adding different structures and overall more impervious area, the code causes a major change, which basically requires it to go back to the zoning process.
Okay. And then I was talking to, I almost said Director Morimoto, Village Administrator Morimoto earlier today, and just correct me if I'm wrong. Is this something that staff said that they did not support? Thank you, Trustee McAlpine.
No,
This-
staff cannot make the
That's right.
support that as a minor
Okay.
change. That was the.
But I think overall,
I had a lot of questions earlier. I'm trying to keep it all straight. Okay, thank you for answering both those questions, and I'm just going to try and listen to everybody else's comments. Thank you.
Trustee Walworth?
Sure. I see a handful of different things you're doing here, and little things like the easement. That's a fairly minor item. There in my some review of the whole thing, there's kind of 3 large items you're asking for: the change in the number of units and the kind of type of them, the change in the parking requirements below the threshold that we require, and then the 55 and older. If you had to prioritize those 3 requests, which one is going to have the biggest positive impact on your ability to finish off and sell these units? Which one of those 3 would be the one that you say, this is what I really got to have, otherwise it's not worthwhile?
Well, the apartment building's rental, so we're not going to be selling those units. So yeah, I think eliminating the 55 plus will allow us to rent those units more easily. I think 8-9 months of marketing is a pretty good indicator of what the demand is. So I think that's our primary goal. To do that, we've obviously had to make some changes to add the additional parking, and that's kind of drives, going from 6 duplexes to 8 townhomes.
Thank you.
And just for clarification, I'll add as well, from the code standpoint, with the age restriction that was on the building for the apartment building, our code allows for 1 parking space per unit for senior housing. If that age restriction is dropped, our code does change from 1 space per unit to 2.25 spaces per unit. So the modification here is to try to get as close to that code as possible. I think it's still like 2 spaces short, from what I recall with the plan, or 1 space short, or whatever. But it's very close for meeting code, but there would be initial departure that would be necessary for the PUD to get approval for through the zoning process.
Oh, one of the things that might be able to be triggered by this, trustee Dudek had asked about, is there a way that you could allocate a couple of the 2-bedroom units that would still be 55 and older, or you want the whole building, you want it to be just general population rental?
You know, I guess we could look at that. I mean, I don't know if you can do that legally for a building, if you can make it partially.
Well, I think I'd have to defer to our attorney.
I know there are thresholds you have to meet. I don't know if those are building specific or not. I have to check the act as well. So there are certain thresholds they have to meet to satisfy that restricted 55 and over. It doesn't have to be complete. It doesn't have to be 100%. But I don't know off the top of my head what that threshold is.
Sorry, I'd like to introduce myself. I'm working with Scott on the building. I was part of the initial group that developed that site. I built the building itself myself, so not in my own hands, but I managed the construction for it. I'm also working with them on the new layout for the units, and I'm also going to be part of the construction team to build this. As far as the parking that we're talking about, and we spoke to Brian before, we're saying 2.25 for the 2-bedroom units. Of course, we have that hands down. We're asking if we keep the 1-bedroom unit to have its own parking space that's currently already there. So we already be better than that, I believe, as far as the numbers that we worked on before, because we have 10 units, there are 2 bedrooms, 2 baths, and then we have 14, there are 1-bedroom, 1-bath units. And if we keep the same parking that's currently there, we exceed the parking on a 2-to-1.
The code doesn't differentiate between 1 or 2-bedroom
I
units.
understand, but I'm saying that, but
Yeah.
just so that you know, that's how close we are as far as the units. As far as the coverage itself for the whole driveway, it's in previous pavers already. So when we increase the parking space, we increase the amount of coverage as well for the pavers. So that should help us. And the reason why we asking for the easement encroachment for the 5 feet is so that we can keep the same exact unit footprints. In the previous approval, we had that unit to be on a weird angle coming up, and the fact that that's a dead-end street going to the park, we believe that it's not going to impact really anybody for that. And it's only a corner of the building, it's like 5 by 5, so it's not a critical. It's not like the whole building itself is going to move over. It's just very small area. As far as the over 55 market, I believe he's just trying to expand the people. We're not saying, no, you cannot come in if you're 55 and over. The fact that the building is an elevator building, so it's geared for that already. All the bathrooms are built with the enforcement for the rebars for people that need the grab bars, so it's already set for that. So we're not asking to not have people over 55 and over, but we're saying we want to expand the market.
Could you also state your name for the record?
Sorry.
Appreciate that.
Jesus Serrato. I'm at 3804 Pheasant Drive in Rolling Meadows.
Thank you. Any questions from this side?
Sure. On the proposed change for the 8 units on that north side versus what you had originally on here with garages. The garages will be behind, and there'll be a 2-car garage for each unit?
Correct.
Yes? Okay.
And 2 parking spaces.
And 2 parking spots per.
Correct.
Okay.
And sorry, the other thing that, the reason why we're proposing to have in and out off of Harper Point, because the previous layout forced, it was a one-way going out into the existing duplexes, which it would be hard to put all the traffic onto a small road anyway. So we're suggesting that we only do emergency vehicles only, so that everybody goes in and out of their own entrance, rather than putting additional load of cars into that driveway. Which is how it was approved, but we're asking for a change in that regard.
One of the things that, I'll just jump in, with regards to the 55 and older, we get asked all the time for apartments like this. I would consider this more, market rate, luxury type of apartments, which we don't have a heck of a lot of in town. So I think that reducing the age restriction would be a benefit to our community as a whole, not only to hopefully maybe get these registered, but have you given any thought to asking some of the existing residents that are seniors that bought in, or that are renting in a senior unit, that thinking that they're all going to be seniors, and now you're going to introducing a different population or demographics into the building? Is that something that you think that you need to have some sort of communication with residents?
We haven't talked to them, but, certainly we would, definitely let them know and, give them the option to, if they didn't want to be in the building, they could, leave the building, I guess, if they wanted to. But I'm not sure. I don't think there's that big of an impact because the number of 2 bedrooms is smaller.
Smaller.
Yeah.
Okay. Just thought I'd ask.
And you're correct, the 1 bedrooms, I think in like $1,500 range, there's so much demand for that.
Yeah.
That's just where the market is right now.
Right. With regard to the encroachment, I agree with, it is at a dead-end street. It abuts the beginning of Hoffman Park. I don't really think that that's a real big issue at all. The units and the parking, I'm going to kind of give you a leg up on this. This is something that we've talked about before that we should be talking about in the near future, about our parking regulations and about the quotas that we have right now. Because of some of the projects that we have approved have ample parking and sometimes way too much parking. So that's something that we need to look at. And you're so darn close to where we are right now that I'm just wondering if that's something that we should take a serious look at. Because I think this is, Brian and I went out and toured with you guys in December when you took over, and I agree with your expansion plans. You're going to expedite the completion of this project that has been going on for a long, long time. And it would be nice to add this to the community and give this a shot at it. So I'm going to ask Brian what his thoughts are about from the PUD plan and future PUDs that we're doing right now with this parking restriction. How do you think that plays out?
As far as the modification of the code?
Yeah.
That certainly is something we can look at to modify the regulations. We can do a text amendment to review what current demand is at existing facilities and if we need to modify our parking requirements. This project is designed here is like 1 or 2 spaces short of code. It's not significant. You're going to have 2 spaces per unit still in the building. The extra quarter space generally is used for guest parking. So with the garage units that they're reconfiguring next to the townhouse building, they would have parking in the garage for a vehicle, but then there's also a driveway space in front of that so that you can have kind of a tandem parking for vehicles there. So residents can have a vehicle in the garage or on the driveway in front of that revised garage layout, with the addition of the surface parking spaces and the other garage units that are there as well. So it will be very close to meeting code as designed right now.
We also have, sorry to interrupt, these on-street parking, the whole site is always open for.
Yeah, because there's no restrictions on Harper, right, or Haber?
Not for overnight, except for the winter.
Yeah.
Just
for the village's general information too, of the 10, 12 1-bedroom units, all of them except for one have only one car. So just to give you an idea of what, kind of is common.
Trustee McAlpine?
I was just going to say that in listening to all of the things that you're looking to do with this property, I think the first thing is that I think everyone would love to see this project finished. It started off strong, and it's very nice as you're coming down, Haber and stuff like that. So the building that you converted to a rental, I really like. I don't have an issue with you switching it to make it more accessible to other people that may want to rent there. As everyone kind of has reiterated here, I don't see an issue with the dead end here with having the the little waiver there with the encroachment. So I'm in favor of getting this done and getting the project completed.
Trustee Wall is giving me a nod. Trustee Weinhammer, we just need a consensus tonight?
Yes.
Yep.
No, this is just for discussion, because it's got to go to zoning.
Yeah, I'm thumbs up.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a good project. It's been fun watching it for the past how many years, but it's nice to see it get taken care of.
Well, we have to say that it's probably the fire department's fault because they use that thing to practice every couple months.
You know, it's always the fire department's fault.
He slows us down.
Right, Chief? Okay. Thank you. Just stay in touch with Brian. He'll get you to the next steps. Thank you very much.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Okay, I will entertain a motion to approve an ordinance denying a text amendment of the Unified Development Ordinance to allow school-related transportation centers and storage lots in the R2 district as a conditional use.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Director Simmons?
Thank you, Mayor, Village Board. The item before you this evening is a ordinance related to the discussion that occurred at our last board meeting regarding the proposed petition. This ordinance reflects the discussion by the board during that meeting and the zoning board as well. Presented before you this evening is an ordinance that would deny the requested modifications to the code. From a voting standpoint, an affirmative vote on this ordinance would effectively deny the application as presented before the board.
Any comments from the board? Otherwise, I'm going to call. We've got a serious list here. Okay, we'll start with Dawn Pensack. Since we have a series of people here, I'm just going to limit your comments to 3 minutes.
Okay. Dawn Pensack, 66 Duxbury Lane, 28-year Cary resident, 17-year proud District 26 bus driver. Since Maplewood's closing, the Transportation Department has been waiting for a new facility, and all of a sudden, after 14 years, we are being treated like a bother, and we are not a vital part of the district and community. School buses have never stopped running. After Maplewood closed, the bus drivers gave 5% of their salary to the district in order to keep driving for our community. We continue to drive with no or very little raises for years after that. We weren't a bother then. When COVID hit, we never stopped running. The bus drivers delivered schoolwork and supplies every day to every student in the district. We weren't a bother then. Coming back since COVID, we lost almost a third of our staff, and we never stopped running. District 26 is finally coming out of the financial turmoil we faced years ago, and it's time for the Transportation Department to get a much-needed new facility. After 14 years and 3 developers being shot down by the village board, the district decided it's time to build a new facility on the Maplewood property, and then the ball fields could also stay. Our district submitted plans to the village, and the village came back with a few requests for some changes to the plans. The district made those changes and then went back to the village. Without any discussion or any questions, all but one village board member voted no. What changed? After 14 years, the Transportation Department are bad neighbors. The ball fields don't matter. The people in Maplewood neighborhood suddenly want a 200-plus unit development with the potential of 400-plus cars driving in and out 24/7. What changed? We need the village to work with the school district. Where are we supposed to go? I am sure the neighborhood by the junior high won't whine us either. Then where do we go? At the last meeting, you read 2 letters against the bus lot staying. One was written by Francis Collins, who's all over Facebook with a fake account. Who is this person? Are they actually a Cary resident? The second letter was written by someone who wanted to remain anonymous because she is a District 26 employee. How do we know if that person is a Cary resident? When I came up to speak tonight, I had to give my name and address. District 26 is a small but mighty, District 26 Transportation is a small but mighty group that has never stopped running. 98% of our bus drivers are residents of Cary and will continue to show up to transport the most precious cargo of this community. We are a vital part of this town. It's time for District 26 Transportation to get a new facility, and we should have the support of our village that we live in. Thank you.
Thank you, Dawn. Christy Wagner.
Christy Wagner, 539 Kearns Avenue.
That was the timer.
Okay. I was asked by some members of my neighborhood to present the board with petitions of support for keeping the transportation center at its present location, which I will do shortly. But first, a wise person once shared with me that nothing impacts you more than local politics. And over the years, I've found that to really be true. National and state elections and decisions are important, of course. However, when you really dial it down, it's what happens in your own community that provides the most impact on you and your family personally. And that's why I'm here again tonight. Although we realize that this information that I'm going to be presenting to you is not, or may not be, a formal petition or have the legalese vocabulary, what it does is represent the feelings and intentions of many of the residents of the Maplewood community. We understand that the decision to proceed with either building on the property or keeping it, if even temporarily, as green space, primarily lies with District 26 as the owners of the property. We get that. However, we still feel it's beneficial that you, as our board members, representatives, and administrators of the Village of Cary, be aware of the opinions of these local residents, your constituents. We know that the proposed ordinance that you're going to vote on this evening, if passed, will effectively block the district's effort to rebuild a new transportation center at its existing location. And while we disagree with this decision, we are presenting 13 pages of over 125 signatures to keep the transportation center at its current site. Last month, I encouraged the board to put aside your power struggles and do the right thing. If the proposed ordinance listed as item 9 on the agenda tonight is passed, all of us who've signed the petition and everyone living in the Frankie subdivision and near Maplewood will now have an even greater eyesore to continue to endure. And currently, with the fence that surrounds it, it's starting to look more like a prison. I know I'll not be alone when I say I'm disappointed that you could have not acknowledged that the district had a reasonable plan that could have been implemented and resulted in the completion of the demolition of the building. Mayor Koenig, I'm delivering these petitions to you along with a map and the entire Board of Trustees for the Village of Cary. And it reads, we, the undersigned, petition against building houses or condos on the Maplewood property in Cary, Illinois. Let's preserve the pristine environment, its green spaces, and wildlife habitats. Development would mar its natural beauty and disrupt the tranquility enjoyed by residents. Let Maplewood remain an oasis of nature for generations to cherish. And also, additionally, you should know that these were presented to the District 26 last week at their meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Kathy Davies.
Good evening, Mayor, Village Board Trustees. My name is Kathy Davies. I have been a resident of the community for 28 years. I am also a school bus driver for Cary District 26 for the last 9. I live at 124 West Margaret Terrace. At the beginning of the new transportation proposal, we all believed it was going to be a sure thing. We were excited about our new transportation center. We were also excited that the village was working so diligently with the school district to make it happen. We soon found out this really wasn't the case. I have to say we were caught a bit off guard considering we provide a vital service to the community. Just curious if any of you have ever stopped by to see what our transportation department really looks like. If not, I'd be happy to give you all a tour. But for now, I'd like to give you a quick overview. As you first pass the crumbling, unsafe eyesore of the now 14 years closed Maplewood School, a quick glance to your right, you will be greeted by lake transportation. Not really a lake, but one that has formed in our parking lot area due to years of neglect. It's present 80% of the school year and the summer. But on a high note, we do now have a waterfowl family who has taken up residency there. They think it's wonderful. We do not. Directly to the left, you will notice the dark, unlit back of the former Maplewood School, where most of the time we need to park because of lake transportation. Not scary in the daytime, but a source of anxiety for us who transport students to school activities that force us to leave or return in the dark. We are not visible from the street back there and many times are alone. We are worried about who and why there are people hanging out back there. We all know there have been some questionable activities. Proceed through the bus yard fence. You will be greeted by our beautiful transportation office, which is actually a trailer. It has been recently updated a bit to hold us over till, as we thought, our new transportation center was going to be completed. Before that, we had water leaks, mold issues, and damage brought on by its age. The office is used by all transportation employees and all visitors, including parents and sometimes students when necessary. There is also one tiny washroom for all employees and visitors. In front of the transportation office is our bus maintenance garage, which is also in dire need of renovation. Cary District 26 came up with a great plan to better this property, remove the school, give us a safe, healthy, updated work environment, kind of like what you have here. This plan was shut down by you along with the plans from the developers who were interested in the property in the past years. I have to say it has left us slightly confused. On a side note, I also have a bus route in the Maplewood neighborhood. I have interacted with several of the parents and residents who live there. Funny because 100% of the people I have talked to overwhelmingly prefer the new transportation center over a large residential traffic-causing housing complex. None of them I talked to were ever approached by any village officials about their preferences. So as we watch our facility crumble, what do we do now? Wait years for a new plan? Would have been nice to have a new transportation center in the neighborhood that wants us, where we have been, and in a perfect location for transporting students. We all stay here because we love our community and we love the kids. We do not love our working conditions. So here we are right back to where we started, nowhere. But I guess that's the way the cookie crumbles, or in this case, that's the way Maplewood School, our beloved ball fields, and our transportation facility crumbles. Thank you for your time.
Kevin Murray? He left, okay. Therese Bailey? Okay, you're just here? Is this Kevin Miller?
I apologize prior, okay? I've been kicked out of Seville's meetings when I lived there. If you allow this housing unit that everybody's talking about, where are you going to put the traffic lights to handle that traffic? On School and Main, or over on Cary Algonquin? And what are you going to do with the extra traffic when people park on both sides in the neighborhood? This is something to think about. I would love to see a new school bus complex. Although the 3 bays, I feel as a 49-year experience mechanic isn't big enough. Got to make it 5, and need more bathrooms. And please, pave that lake. Thank you.
Thank you. Amy, can't read your last name.
Oh, come on. Good evening. I'm Amy Langhammer, 8408 Russell Street. I have lived in Cary my entire life. My parents moved here in 1956, before I was born. My father was very involved in community projects, from the baseball fields to designing the Cary vehicle stickers that we used to have, to teaching art at the Park District. He believed in community and raised my brothers and I to do the same. I've also lived through to remember when Fox Trail Swim Club was going to be developed and we would have restaurants and clubs and a minor league baseball team. Yeah, I don't see that. When the Walgreens property was going to be the new downtown. Don't see that. And when the property across from Aldi's was going to be the new downtown. Don't see that. So I'm a little leery on things. I have worked for the school district for 15 years at transportation. Before that, I worked in the kitchens at all the elementary schools. Transportation has been located at 340 Krenz for what, 50 years? And now it is impossible to make the very much needed improvements that have been put off since Maplewood closed 15 years ago. I would bet that at least 50% of Cary residents don't even know where we are. I have to give directions at least twice a week to parents to come and get things that their kids have left on the buses. The looks we get when they pull in, it's not nice. We are not in the middle of the neighborhood. We are in a back corner with a parking lot on one side, the train tracks behind us, and Maplewood next to us. Contrary to what has been written by some people, we are not planning on building a Casey's or Thornton's fueling station. Yes, we will have a fueling station. We have one now. We have less than 20 buses on the road right now. Do we use the roads in Cary? Yeah, we do. We kind of have to perform our jobs of transporting your children to school. Pretty sure there are more Amazon, FedEx, and UPS trucks on the road than our buses. We are on the roads for 176 days out of the year. We are not running on weekends, not at night, and during summer school, we only run 4 days a week, and we're back in the lot by 1 or 2. Transportation Department has always tried to maintain a good relationship with our neighbors. If concerns were brought to our attention, we tried to resolve them to the best of our abilities. I personally have left my home at 2 in the morning to go shut bus lights off so as not to shine in the neighbors' windows. All our buses are equipped with technology that alerts me if a bus is speeding. I can honestly and proudly say I have never gotten an alert for any of our buses speeding in any neighborhood. To the people complaining about our 18 buses on the road, do they realize that your strategic plan calls for a minimum of 160 multi-unit and 50 single homes to be built on Maplewood property? If you put that at 2 cars per household, that's over 400 cars on our roads. There have been at least 3 developers interested in the Maplewood property, and 15 years ago, I probably would have been all over developing the property, if it made sense. But the village board denied all of them. One board member I remembered said the developers' designs were ugly. Another one wanted to put a strip mall in. I've heard several suggestions as where we could go. Oh, put us in another neighborhood? That makes no sense. Buy the property across from Aldi and put us there. Why would we buy property when we already own property that we are on? Not only that, but we don't do train tracks. And that would leave us to go down Industrial Drive. Semis, buses don't mix very well. I know one person questioned
Why are we here when Briargate is the only school on this side of town? We still have to transport kids to Oak Knoll Junior High, the ECE program at Oak Knoll, Three Oaks, and Deer Path, depending on the program that the kids are in. This is a central location that makes the most sense, both in mileage, fuel costs, and time on the roads. It is my understanding that the school district met all your requirements and you still denied the changes. I'm disappointed, to say the least. We are not asking to build a 4-story Taj Mahal. We are asking to build an office and garage that is clean and safe for our employees. I look at your pretty new building and wonder why we don't get that. If any of you would like to come to the transportation department, we'd be happy to give you a tour. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Michael Boyce.
Thank you. Michael Boyce, 572 Alita Drive in Cary. I've been a resident 6 houses from Maplewood School for 50 years plus. First of all, I'd like to thank you. I went through the agenda and all 237 pages that were attached to it, that were on the village's website. You do a lot of work, so thanks for what you do. We've been dealing with this situation at Maplewood for quite a long time. I went through and I looked at the ordinance, and I thought it was very interesting. I wanted to call to everyone's attention 4 items on here. The purpose of the Unified Development Ordinance, whereas the objectives of the ordinance of the UDO include promotion of public health, safety, comfort, morals, convenience, and general welfare, the conservation of valuable tax land and buildings throughout the village, lessening or avoiding congestion in public streets, ensuring and facilitating the preservation and development of sites, areas, structures of historical, architectural, and aesthetic importance. We've been dealing with this for many, many years. I think the greatest concern that many of us in that area have is that you originally brought up an idea in the comprehensive plan to put an enormous number of units, living units in there, that would just congest the entire area. So we've been living with that thought as this goes through. Sure, people have looked at this very, very hard. I kind of listed some objectives down after, again, going through this ordinance. And, you know, the R2 zoning that's mentioned in this ordinance that you're going to vote on is mentioned tonight 29 times in the paperwork that's associated with this meeting. In the particular ordinance, it's mentioned 23 times, and that's residential, not multifamily, not all sorts of 4-story buildings and things like that. And I think that's what people are most concerned about. So looking at what the possibilities are, we could have single-family units. I think everybody would agree that that's nice. We could leave a playground and a possible school and a bus unit that could be done there. Those are all positive things, but I don't think anybody wants to have 300 plus units on 15 acres. It makes absolutely no sense. So my final question to you is, why? Why are you rejecting this ordinance to allow the school to do what they want to do with their property? If it has to do with the comprehensive plan is flexible. If it's not, it should not be. It's a flexible plan, and you need to listen to the people who voted you in and the people who live in that area. I think it's absolutely critical. So we hope that you will do the right thing by the residents. Thank you.
Well said.
Tom By. nothing to say. Is there anybody else who would like to address the village board that hasn't signed in?
Martha Ritter, 239 North School Street. I just want to say, all the signatures and all the dots on the map, I hope you all saw them. Did you see it?
We just got it.
I know. They tell a story. And let the people speak. That's all I got to say.
I'll pass it down. Brian, do you have any other comments? All right, I'll open up to the village board. Trustee Weinhammer?
You know, I've had several meetings with, or at least one in public, lengthy meeting, not in public, I'm sorry, in private with Director Morimoto, Village Administrator Morimoto and Director Simmons. And I'm beyond frustrated that I feel that the village and the school can't come together and find a way to make something work. I've said this so many times, and I still feel like, why can't we just make something work? And I just feel like I have so many emotions as I'm listening to people speaking and as I'm reading this text amendment and the amount of time that we spent on it, and I feel like we are fighting. We're just constantly fighting. I don't like it. I'd like taxing bodies to work with each other. I think that would be the win for everybody. It's just frustrating.
Thank you. Anybody else? Trustee Walworth?
If you were here for the last time when we went over this, or if you tuned in last time, you can recall that I started with a summary of what it is that we're being asked. And part of the challenge in this is what Trustee Weinhammer just brought up, is there's a lot of emotion, there's a lot of feelings on both sides of the issue. But we're not here to litigate 300 apartments. That's not on the table. We're not here to talk about developers who backed out. The village did not send them away. Developers who decided they didn't want to do what was being asked, so they went away. So we're not here to litigate those things. We're here to have the one simple decision of, do we want a transportation center in a residential district? That's it. This is not the end of the story. We do need to work together, the school district and the village, and we will continue to do so. As soon as everybody leaves here tonight, regardless of what the outcome is, we're going to continue to work together because that's what we're supposed to do. So I want to just remind everybody, we're not voting on future development of that property. We're not voting. If your working conditions are less than stellar, then the owner of that facility needs to be held accountable to make your working conditions better. That is 100% on them. That has nothing to do with the ordinance in front of us. And I can speak to that. What the conditions of their working environment is like have nothing to do with whether or not we approve a variance in the ordinance. This has been going on for 15 years. That puddle didn't show up 2 or 3 days ago, and that puddle is not the village's fault. If things are corroding the building, if you're working out of a temporary facility, that is not the village's fault. That is something that the owner needs to address. I am happy to work with the school district as part of the village. I know we will continue to do so, but we are here to just continue the process with this single ordinance vote and not drum up all of the emotions that surround everything. We need to continue to follow the process.
I just want to say that it is not their employer's problem. The employer's problem is that we're not willing to approve it. And nobody on this board stated why last time. Nobody stated why they voted the way that they did. And you did, correct? Thank you. Nobody else did. And I had asked at the end, was this because the comprehensive plan suggested that we should have high-density housing there? Maybe it needs to be revised. Please do not blame District 26 for them not having, correct a good working environment right now. That's what my interpretation was of what you said. Are you telling me that
That
They've had
is not,
15 years
that is
to fix the problem.
100% not true, and I'll
Okay.
tell you why, Trustee Weinheimer. Why?
That's what I perceived.
They are in a
Let's-
temp-
hold on just
they
a
are
minute.
in a- They are in a
Let's be
temporary
respectful
building for the
here,
last
please.
15 minutes.
Let's let her finish hers, and then Trustee Walrath, you can chime in, please.
No, I'm fine. I'm
You
not
should ask a
offended. No,
question.
I did ask you a question.
100%.
So,
If they're in a temporary building, which I understand it's a trailer, that didn't happen over the last 2 years. I've been on property. That is not the case.
Please, we've spent a great portion of this evening listening to your concerns without interruption. No,
I want to
no.
draw the distinction between
This is a
what
board
we're
discussion
doing this
now.
evening and the comments that you all had, because all the comments you had, I 100% heard them. You do deserve better working conditions. You deserve all those things that we need for our children to be bussed around. That's not the decision we're making. If I have an issue with the building that I work in, that's my employer's issue. Now, what Trustee Weinheimer is saying is there is a potential solution that has been put out there. It's not up to us to decide what School District 26 does with it. We're supposed to withhold our ordinances. They're asking for a variance from that ordinance, and this board at the last meeting decided no. This vote tonight is a continuation of that. That's all. I'm not saying that it's an acceptable condition that you all work in, not even remotely. I'm saying that I disagree with an ordinance that allows a transportation center in a residential district. It allows it in the past because the school district operated that as a school. A transportation facility is an ancillary use. That's it. That was my very first comment before we voted on this last time, and that'll be my very last comment about this. There's no longer a school there, so you can't have the ancillary use. That's all.
we
Trustee
do-
let's.
Yes, go ahead.
Trustee McAlpine?
Okay. Correct me if I'm wrong. This has already been voted on. I just want to make sure that the residents know. This has already been voted on and was turned down. So I just want to make sure you guys know that. I don't want you to think that, have unrealistic expectations. That being said, I am a huge proponent. Anyone that's ever seen me, anyone that comes before us, if I ever say no to anything, I always explain why. And I did that the last time. And I will always continue to do that. On a separate note, residents should demand and expect that taxing bodies will work together to come up with a solution. So even wherever we're at right here, no one is closing the door and saying that we don't want to have that you guys are not vital, that you are not important, that is just far from where anyone believes that. We all believe that our transportation, that all of you guys are important, that you should have great working conditions, that you should have a new building. It's a matter of, we talked about whether doing something like this would set a new precedence. And we discussed within the UDO, you have these UDO, you have these rules and these zoning restrictions for a reason. And our point was that we wouldn't allow it in another neighborhood. So why would we allow it? And I understand people here are saying, yes, the majority of the people living there feel that way. But we have to look in perpetuity, guys. Is everyone here right now going to be living there in 40 years? Because that building's going to be there for a long time. I'm just saying that we do hear we hear what you're saying, we acknowledge what you're saying, but we also represent 18,000 people. Not just the people in one area. We represent everyone everywhere. And we're trying to look at this and say, when we analyzed this last time and we went through this, we are constantly reaching out to the school district to come up with a solution, to work together with them, to collaborate with them, to come up with something that's going to help you get what is needed. Nobody is doubting that you need a new building. It's a matter of where that new building can go. And as Trustee Walrus said, we don't know what the future holds for that parcel of property. If the school district owns it, the school district wants to hold on to that and never do anything, it'll never be developed. We don't own it. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about, does it meet the requirement to make a text amendment? And that's what we voted on last time, and I did explain exactly why it was never a question of do I want to work with this school district. Anytime we've had an opportunity to have we had a time where we set up a board with a couple members from the village board and the school district, I volunteered right away. Anytime there's an opportunity to collaborate and work with other taxing bodies, I will be the first one to volunteer and say I would love to do that. So, again, I just want to make it clear that people realize that the vote did occur last time.
Yes, but we are,
We're voting on whether or not we're going to codify it. That's not whether, we're not voting on whether we agreed on it or not.
But just continuing your conversation, we have had variances before. So it's not like, well, we can't have variances. Staff, I know you're saying, of course, we've had variances, so this is something that they have asked for, and I know we've already voted on it. I know that. You know, staff even said that they recommended this. That's another frustrating part. You know, I'm thinking so many different things. I'm thinking, you know, a while ago, Mayor Koenig said to me back when Jim Kostler was on the board and Jeff Kraus and Kim Cavelli, how do you guys like make different decisions? Like you'll, you know, go ahead and you'll all vote a different way. And then you guys all leave and you're like, hey, have a great night, all that kind of stuff. It's because we just all know that we were voted in by different people. And we all have our own voices, and we respect each other for having different voices. And I feel like this board votes together a lot and has the same thought, and it's just, I just wish sometimes somebody would step out of their comfort zone and possibly vote in a way that would not be conforming of the entire board all the time. And I get that you guys maybe all think alike. It's just shocking that out of all the people that we have on the board, that everybody's always voting in the same way all the time.
The frustrating part about that, though,
is
the school board is the same way. They all
Hold
vote
on,
the same way.
Trustee Stefani, please.
The same way.
Trustee Stefani, please. All right. Trustee Weinhammer, we've heard your commentary. Please let's have some other interjection. If you'd like a chance to rebut some of that stuff, I would be more than happy to give you that opportunity. But we have listened to everybody here. It is our opportunity now to give the other trustees an opportunity to hear what they have to say, okay? Trustee Collier?
What a lot of this comes down to is there's a lot of misinformation, and there's not all the facts are out there. There's been other things presented to the school board that you are not aware of. There needs to be a public meeting between both boards and the public to hash out what happened and what's going on here.
Let's do it.
Trustee Stefani?
I cold-heartedly agree. So I think that we have offered it numerous times, and I think we've seen a couple that have actually come through, looking into the future, and happy to see what ends up happening. That's it.
I'll kind of summarize this. You know, I disagree with Trustee Weinhammer's assessment of our board. We get along very well. We work tirelessly to make sure that we're making the best decision possible for the entire community. This is a very difficult time, and when you have two taxing districts that seem to be at odds, that's just not true. Let me tell you, I'm sorry, Trustee Weinhammer, it's not funny.
I didn't say it was funny, I'm just not agreeing with you.
Well, may I have an opportunity
Yes.
to present my side here? It's been admitted, there's a lot of misinformation out there. Our board has presented many, many different opportunities for the school district. In addition, we had a developer who was interested in this property that was going to pay up to $8 million to move the bus barn, and they were going to move the bus barn over to the junior high. That developer went away on their own because they found out that the school district wasn't going to sell the property anymore. And if I hear one more time, as a mayor, I am pushing this off all the time. People are coming up to me, why aren't you working with the school district? That's just not true. We are. At the staff level, I've had meetings with President Darling, with their financial director, with their superintendent. We meet to discuss these things. There are things being talked about that aren't being represented correctly. We are working, trying to put together an opportunity. The three developers that everybody is talking about went away on their own. Our village board, go back, we have videotaped these meetings for the last 10 years. This board has never voted on any project at the Maplewood site, period. We have had conversations with developers that had wanted to do things. All right, you guys all, you're so excited about Maplewood and you want to do these things. Would you want the village board to approve a 300-unit development in that property? Neither did we. And we told the developer it's not going to work. We told another developer that I recognize people here. Deacon Boyce was there. He had this. There was a developer that was here that really had a good plan. That's something that the neighborhood liked. Everything was falling into place. He lost his financing. He went away. The last developer that just came here this past year, the owner never stepped foot on the Maplewood site. They sent a contract engineer to come in and look at the site. Not once did they come out. Do you know how many units they wanted to put there? 300. No parking, nothing. They didn't want to work with us. We have your best interests at heart. It may not seem like it right now, but we do. We look at things holistically. What is going to be the best for the entire community? We will continue working with the school board to find a suitable place to provide a top-notch transportation center. We have been working with the school board about this. I just think it's frustrating that you're not giving us the benefit of the doubt to make a decision that's for the entire community. It's a vital service that you're providing to our children. You don't think that that's important to the village board? It's of the utmost importance. We don't take these things lightly. We've been talking about this for years. I've been mayor. I'm starting my 12th year today. 12 years we've been talking about this and the Maplewood, and we are trying to work together to make sure that we develop something, if it goes that way, that the whole community would want to be benefited by. Any type of if this opportunity comes and goes, it comes and goes. We move on, we look at things. We try to do what's best for the community all the time. All I can say is give us the benefit of the doubt. We will continue to work with the school district on this. We have been working with the school district on this. So give us an opportunity. Like Trustee Walrus said tonight, we are just codifying a decision that was made at our last board meeting. It's part of our process. No new decisions are being made on that site right now. None.
I just have two questions.
Sure.
So what do you think is best for our community? You said we want to do what's best for our community. What is it that you think is best for our community?
I think a site other than the Maplewood for a school transportation center would be better served at another location within the community.
What do you think is best for the community at that location?
I would say a mixed-use housing. I think single-family duplexes, something similar to what was presented tonight.
Okay, and then my next question, I'm sorry I am asking this because I would like to usually ask questions to Eric beforehand so I'm not like coming off or I don't have to ask them in public then. But why are we trying to deny, So consider for approval an ordinance denying a text amendment of the Unified Development Ordinance to allow school-related transportation centers and storage lots in the R2 district as a conditional use. Why are we trying to deny that then?
Because we don't want to allow, say for instance, we don't want to allow a transportation center in an R2, which is our largest zoning district in the village. That's something we don't want to allow. What gives the village control as to how they're forming and they're molding their community is by zoning.
I understand, but so I'm just thinking about a lot of different things and conversations that I had. So can we make it so it has to be within a certain, as we were talking about with, this isn't my thought, but like when I was talking with Village Administrator Morimoto and Director Simmons, can we make it so maybe this item, the transportation center storage lots, can be allowed in districts where it has a certain amount of acreage? So that if you guys are worried about other transportation centers being in R2 districts, they're smaller in other areas, can they just be, can we pause and like bring this back is what I'm asking, so that we can at least have a conversation of saying, hey, this property is what, 15 acres? Maybe this can go ahead and be an R2. This could be used for a transportation center for an R2 district. Like we can allow it for something like of that size. and something of a smaller area, we would say no, that we don't want that on there.
Well, to your question, the decision was made at the last board
I
meeting.
know, but we're actually talking about this as an item for separate action tonight.
It is. It just codifies, it puts everything in the correct verbiage. It takes all the context that was made. Attorney Euler, did you want to explain that?
Right, the ordinance that is before you tonight is not about the decision. If the board wanted to revisit the decision made at the last meeting, there would need to be a vote to reconsider the decision to deny. This ordinance sets forth the information that this board is relying on to make its decision. So we did not have the board adopt an ordinance at the last meeting because there was going to be further discussion, and there was further discussion at your last meeting. And we wanted to bring that ordinance back, those findings back, that discussion back, to capture all of the information that the board was going to rely on. So that's what this ordinance is proposed to do. If anybody on the board has comments that they want to make relative to the content of the ordinance, the findings, this would be the appropriate meeting and the appropriate forum to make those comments or proposed revisions.
Am I able to request to ask to have a future discussion about R2 districts? I'm not wording this correctly, but I think you guys understand what I'm saying. Are we able to, as a board, have that discussion where we can go ahead and say, if there's a property that's at least 10 acres, that they could have a transportation center on their property, and anything under 10 acres, or whatever the numbers are that would make sense? Is that something that we could talk about as a board?
Yes. If you are discussing something that is materially different than this petition and the issues related to this petition, yes, a different discussion relative to R2 or these kinds of facilities can be raised.
So am I
Does that
allowed?
does that
Yes,
answer the
you
question?
answered my question. Am I allowed to ask if the board would be open to something like that for discussion in the future?
Trustee Weinhammer, this board has never denied a request from a trustee to talk about something in the future, ever. If that's something that you would like to do, you would have to bring it up during future agenda items and discussion by the village board and ask the board if that's something that they want to talk about. We have a process in place to give people this opportunity. We are very transparent. Everything and anything we do is videotaped. You can go back and watch any of our meetings. I've had to go back and watch several meetings to make sure that I'm hearing the right information from a petitioner or a resident. So we have that opportunity to make sure that we are giving the trustees an opportunity to be heard and talk about things. But right now, what we're voting on right now is just codifying. The decision was made. So my advice to you would be when I call for, is there any other future agenda items and discussion by the village board? You bring it up at that time. Then you ask your fellow trustees, is this something that you want to talk about? And if they all say yes, great. If they say no, they don't want to talk about it. So that's why that's there, okay? Is there any other comments? No. Trustee Stefani?
And further clarifying one of your questions, Trustee Weinhammer, you'd mentioned that we had mentioned, or that the staff report indicated that staff recommended this. As Attorney Euler mentioned, that phrase is there, and as we talked about earlier, that phrase is there indicating that we recommend it because we understand that the wording of the ordinance reflects the feedback and the direction of the board at the last meeting. Not that we're recommending one direction or another on the issue. It's that this proposed text or the ordinance matches your feedback from last meeting. That's what we're recommending, that it is reflecting that. And if you disagree, we entertain comments on that.
Any other comments? None? Roll call, please.
Collier?
Public comment is over. We've given everybody an opportunity. I asked people at the end of the signed in if people had an opportunity. It's now a board discussion, so we're going to go ahead and move forward with our roll call.
Collier?
Yes.
Hold on a minute. There's a clarification. Where's your notes? Okay. If you're supportive of the text amendment, vote no. If you're supporting to deny the text amendment, vote yes. Is that correct?
No.
Wait.
No.
No, it's the
We
opposite.
swapped.
So the ordinance in front of you is.
Well, I was just, okay, never
It's to
mind.
deny.
I was looking at his, he can be a no, and I was looking.
We're voting yes if we're agreeing with what our decision was last time.
If you're
We're codifying
Correct.
it. We're codifying it.
Correct.
If you're affirming
Yes.
your decision from your last.
You're codifying.
Correct.
Well, we're just.
I apologize. I just want to make sure, it's emotional up here, so,
I'm going to do you again, just so you.
yeah.
Collier,
Yes.
Weinhammer,
No.
McAlpine,
Yes.
Walrath,
Yes.
Stefani.
Yes.
And for the record, I don't vote in this, but I support this as well. Now that this is, hold on a second before everybody leaves, this is far from over. This is far from over. Give us an opportunity to work on your behalf, to come up with a plan that will work for everybody. That's our job. Thank you. All right, moving forward, administrator's report, please.
Nothing further this evening.
Could I talk to you after the meeting? Department head reports. Chief Finland?
Yes, just a reminder that we're going to have our Cop on Top Special Olympics event at the Dunkin' Donuts on May 17th, Friday. We do that to raise funds for the Special Olympics in Illinois.
Thank you.
It's awesome.
Director Noonan?
Just wanted to mention that we had our community cleanup days, our first annual this past weekend. Great event, had a few people show up, and just want to say thank you. I think we posted on Facebook. Thank you to them as well.
Thank you. Director Simmons, we've heard enough of you tonight, huh? Okay, thank you. Any future agenda items and discussion by the village board?
Yeah, I just want to back up a quick second. I know we had that 3-minute rule that we voted on a long time ago. I wasn't in favor of it, but it doesn't matter if I was or wasn't. I know that there's still 2 people that wanted to say something. Can you?
Well, for the record, I stopped timing after the first one.
I know you did.
People
and I
talked
heard
for
their
at
timer
least
go off.
12 minutes, so I exceeded what our goals were.
I understand. Thank you. There was 2 individuals that were still here that wanted to say something. Is it possible to get whatever? I have no idea what they want to say. Can they please come up and just get whatever their comments are into the minutes before we go into future agenda items, please? You've done it with David Miller a lot before. He comes up and walks up here all the time.
All right, Deacon
Thank you.
Boyce?
Thank you. Mr. Stefani here mentioned something that concerned me. You said that there were discussions that we were not aware of, items that we were not aware of. And somebody else mentioned something about the possibility of having a joint meeting or something that would work so that we could be better informed. I would like to see that happen.
Can I ask you a question? Have you spent any time on District 26's website regarding Maplewood?
No.
Visit their
I've
website.
been most concerned with the village board, actually.
Well, you need to be more concerned about the school boards and what they're presenting there. Come to our website, and there's a whole section on Maplewood, all the opportunities.
I've done the entire thing.
It goes both ways,
My concern is
sir.
about the zoning, because you've made the concessions before. We talked about it tonight. Concessions for parking, concessions for this, that, a few feet here, a few feet there. I know that you folks have the control. I know that you've got that. And I think that's why I'm focusing on you. Thank you.
State your name and address for the record.
Chris Reiki, I live on 446 Lloyd Street. This doesn't have anything to do with the Maplewood product or property, but these developers come in and you have these ordinances, but then they want you to waive the ordinances. And then also that apartment complex thing that you did on Main Street, where the Krause Center used to be, you put up those 3 buildings. Is that the best interest of the city of Cary to put up those 3 towers in the middle of a residential area with houses?
The board thought it was a good idea, and I concur. It's a really good idea. We need that type of housing. You know, we're caught between a rock and a hard place with that project, Chris. You've attended several of the meetings. You know, no one wanted that building. And the neighborhood demanded that we keep the building. No one wanted us to tear the building down. It's history, it's history. We bought into that. We asked every taxing district, including District 26, including the township, including District 155, if that's a facility that they would like to have. Every single one of them said no. Just like we did with our former village hall, we offered that facility to every single taxing district, every single one. Everybody said no.
But to build something like that?
Yes,
in
because
town?
we are in dire need of a market rate towards luxury and housing. Those apartments are going to rent between $2,800 and $3,000 a month. Those are going to be, it's going to be a nice unit. That's the PUD in its utmost performance. That is a controlled little environment there. They're going to be beautiful when they're done. When he's done with these things, the developer that's building that right now, this is what he does. He renovates and repurposes old existing buildings. He's done phenomenal jobs in Huntley, in Crystal Lake. He's doing Cary. He's also doing these older buildings in Lake Zurich. He does a remarkable job. He pays tribute to our history. So when you're making comments about the Krause Center, this board could have made a decision to say, let's just sell it to the highest bidder and then they can tear it down. Then where would we be? I'd have a room full of people here saying, why did you tear that building down? So we made again, we collaborate. We listen to people. I went to open houses, a couple open houses over there, talked to the residents. When they finally figured out that this isn't going to be a horrible situation, they figured out this is going to be good. The value of the homes in that surrounding area are going to escalate because of the amount of rent and the way the property is going to be valued. And that's another piece that, you know, that piece of property has never been on the tax rolls, ever. So we got our shiny firemen here and our policemen, and we've got public works. All of us are going to benefit from the new tax revenue that is generated from that new development. Just like our property on Route 14 and 2nd Street. That wasn't on the tax rolls. That's all going to be new property. Just like the property that we sold off on Cimarron lots. Those 5 homes are now going to be on the tax rolls. That property was never on the tax rolls. So this board, when we get together and we make a decision, we look for the long-term growth of the community. Is this a project that fits us? Is this what we really need? And we rely heavily on our comprehensive plan. And our comprehensive plan says we are undervalued when it comes to market rate and luxury apartments. It's in the, and I presided over dozens, that's inappropriate. There was hundreds of people that participated in our comprehensive plan study. We had multiple meetings, multiple places to go over what things. And that is what the community said that they wanted. So when people say we're not listening, we are listening, but they've got to find the facts themselves. This is why I recommend people don't just come at us. Go look at the other parts, or the other people that are involved. You know, we try to do what's best for the community, Chris. We really do. These are difficult situations.
But these ordinances, they're set for a reason, and you want the developer over here, and then the development over on Cary-Algonquin.
Well, the developer that's right here, that's a different type of thing. He's looking for waivers for something a developer would normally do that we don't need. The developer that was here regarding to the housing, the things that he was requesting were minimal. The only reason they came to the village board is because there's a minimal and a major request, and those kind of fall in the major request. You know, a 5-foot variance on a last piece of the property on the corner of lot, that's not a big deal. When there are two spots less of parking in a situation like that, when I know that we've had conversations with other developers saying that there's other communities that their parking restrictions are less than yours. So we're going to be having a discussion this summer about our parking with new development. What are the needs that we have? So when we look at these things, we try to be as business friendly and develop a product and develop a development that will really make the community better. So that's why we do what we do. You know, if we say no, no, no to everybody, the whole thing with Maplewood, that's a whole different thing.
I was not referring to Maplewood.
But, those things, these are that's why we're paid the big bucks, Chris, to make these decisions. And, we spent, there's hours and hours that go into these things that are behind the scenes before we show up here with our shiny faces, looking at you guys thinking, this is what we want to do. There's a lot of time talking to the developers, our staff, so we work tirelessly to make sure that we're making the right decisions. Does that answer your question?
Yes and no, but just the fact to have 3 buildings, that particular place in town, especially after you just did all that work downtown. So if you're coming from Cary Algonquin downtown, you see this big structure on the side. I mean, it's kind of...
Well, we're trying to be a transit-friendly housing community too, trying to capture some of the residents that are commuting downtown that want to walk to the train, don't have to drive. Those are the types of housing that people look at. That's what we want.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Trustee Weinhammer, did you want to
I
add?
do want to say thank you for allowing the other people to speak, and to responding, you didn't even have to respond during that time, so that was very gracious of you. Thank you for letting them speak. I would like to know if the board is interested in a future discussion, talking about, I don't know how to word it. Just the R2 district, but talking about acreage and what could be allowed on it as far as, can you help me out here, Attorney Euler? Please.
Or maybe Director Simmons can kind of.
Okay.
I think certainly we can have a discussion as far as what uses are allowed within the R2 district. If there's needs to be potential modifications to it as far as what uses, if you're looking to allow different uses in the district, and then establishing specific regulations for those uses.
When you say uses within the
Within any district, like.
Well, I guess my
sorry to
question
interrupt.
is, would we be able to talk about acreage and things like that? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, so
Okay.
just for reference, the Unified Development Ordinance has specific regulations for specific uses that the board has approved in the past. So wind energy systems, solar energy systems, home occupations, those types of things. There's specific regulations that the village has adopted as far as what uses are allowed in various zoning districts. So if there's a desire to have additional conversations regarding a specific land use and how we would cite it within the community, we certainly can have that conversation and say these would be more appropriate regulations for that type of land use, and see if there's, the board is willing or wants to make modifications to the code from that standpoint.
Is this something that we could put on the next COW meeting?
I don't know what we have set up on the next agendas.
I think we might need to, at a staff level, some time to prepare information so we can put it in a future agenda. But the next meeting, I don't believe we'd have time to prepare because we have some other items in the works.
Okay, so that would be June, is that correct?
We'll find the earliest slot that we can.
Today's the 7th, the next one's the 21st. And then the first Tuesday in June, is that what we're looking at?
I apologize. There is a meeting somewhere I know we're every other Tuesday, but I want to say there's somewhere a meeting that we removed when the original 2024 meeting schedule was approved. I just want to check when that is before we verify what meeting.
Okay. I just didn't want this to go on indefinitely and then we didn't have a
No,
discussion.
we'll make it, let's let the staff get together with some things and some ideas, and we can get something on a future COW sooner than later.
Do we need to have consent of the board
Well,
to have that
I was
on?
just going to ask if I can get a consensus from the board if this is something they want to talk about.
Fine with that.
Yes.
Sure. Right, we'll put that on a future
Thank you.
agenda items. Okay, I will entertain a motion to adjourn into executive session to discuss litigation pending or imminent, 5 Illinois CS 120/2 C11.
So moved.
Second.
Yeah. And we will be adjourning from the executive session, but we will come back into this room to start our committee of the whole meeting. We have one item on our agenda for committee of the whole. So,
All in favor?
all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We are adjourned going into executive session at 7:59.